3, 2, 1. I watch Sardonicast every day. I watch Sardonicast. I watch Sardonicast every day. I watch Sardonicast. All right.
I'm impressed by your pitch there.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It was a strain. Do you guys know that meme at all? It's like the Pokemon Go
I know
kid.
the one.
I don't.
It's got 82 million views.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
This is Sardonicast. I'm Adam from Your Movie Sucks.
I'm Ralph from YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm Alex from IHE, and I'd just love to know how mental Adam must sound if you took all the clips of the intros from various episodes and just strung them together. You'd have something interesting there.
Yeah. It sounds like I'm unstable. So we got some movies to talk about, but first we got some movie related news to talk about. Apparently, Warner Brothers has just signed a deal for an AI-driven film management system. So basically,
the old
shit.
FMS.
Yeah, shit that we were
Robots
joking
are gonna
about
make movies, right?
a year ago is now true.
It's like a recurring joke that we make about how companies are just making movies based on Google data.
Yeah.
And I guess we're more right than we thought.
Yeah.
It's the natural progression of that kind of thinking, that idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious.
That's how you know what people like.
Do you guys want to explain what it is?
Oh, sure. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
I'll quickly read what's relevant anyway. In this article from The Hollywood Reporter, their first line is literally, "Resistance is futile." Warner Bros. Has become the latest studio to publicly embrace artificial intelligence. The movie division has signed a deal with Synalytic, I might have read that wrong, to use the latter's AI-driven project management system that was launched last year.
It's like analytic, but Synalytic.
Yeah, that's what I kind of founded.
So clever.
Let's try and break down exactly what it says it's going to do. Warners will leverage the system's comprehensible data and predictive analysis to guide decision-making at the greenlight stage. The integrated online platform can assess the value of a star in any territory and how much a film is expected to make in theaters and on other streams. That's kind of the basic premise then. So it's an AI system that can predict what is going to make the next billion-dollar property / combination of actors to make
so basically
lots of money.
Greenlighting movies will no longer be up to human beings at Warner Brothers. It'll literally be an algorithm that takes the data of who's in it and what type of story it is, I guess, and who's involved or what type of movie it is, and be like, it is this year, so this will make this much money. Here's the budget you should give it, or is it worth it, or you should release it in 10 years or something like that. It just sounds ridiculous. And although I do trust computer algorithms to some degree, I don't think that that's a great thing for art, because all it's going to do is there has to be other factors that you're not going to be able to input into that algorithm. You can't put every single detail into the algorithm. You're not going to be able to put how the movie feels, right?
Yeah.
Not yet, anyway.
It's just it's almost like a really reductive way of looking at art, and not really understanding what art is. It's just a number to these people, and it's so sad because it's everything that we've been making fun of for so long.
Do you know what it makes me think of? Have you guys seen that episode of Black Mirror with Bryce Dallas Howard where everyone's kind of ranked on a number system?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like taking that idea but applying it to a business model. So you can imagine The Rock would have a very high number, numerical value on his star power thing. And
score.
So every they'll take, okay, we've got some property we can use. Let's plug in the algorithm, see what cast it can fill up. Oh, Kevin Hart. Oh, The Rock. And it's just every film is going to be predicted that way, at least on the big Hollywood kind of vehicle projects like that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it works out, Because who knows? Like, it would be hilarious if Warner Brothers just started making much better movies after this point.
Yeah.
It would be hilarious if it was like turned out to be the best thing ever. Because there's so many ideas that studios have where they look at an IP and they're just like, oh yeah, the Lone Ranger, that's something. And like, just throw it out there and then it just flops and nobody likes it and nobody wanted it. And it's just like, who
John
the fuck?
Carter.
Yeah. It's like they're essentially robots already the way they think. So I don't know. This might not be a big difference.
Disney already has an AI behind the scenes. That's how they greenlit like all that Lion King. Like,
yeah,
all that
probably.
nonsense.
Yeah, this one's just news. This one's just public. They converted Walt Disney into a computer AI. They have his
I was thinking about this earlier because I knew we were going to be talking about this, and we've joked about this for so long. And this is a tangent, but it will come back around and make sense. You know, there are those apps you can get for your phone that are like plug-in visual effects, so they can have like a missile shooting off and like crazy stuff that would have just been
I love
insane.
Those. When I was like 13, I had tons of those.
Yeah, like imagine a kid in like the 80s being handed that and how like insane that must have been. Like, I'm thinking the natural progression of that is like decades down the line, we're going to be able to have these like systems and like AI like algorithms and everything that can just, they know how to make a movie because there is like a formula to it, and like it's just like drag and drop, plug and play. Like we're really going there, and it's becoming so easier and easier that it really makes me wonder what everything's going to look like in 50 years, even maybe even before then.
There's going to be streaming services that just produce a bunch of like robot produce content like that. It'll just be like a completely AI manufactured app.
It would be up to the limitations of like the programmer at that point.
Yeah.
Because we'll start seeing them and they'll be hilarious at first. There'll be beta versions of this. You know those I guess there's some YouTube videos on this, and some of them are absolutely hilarious, where they take AI programs to basically write a Harry Potter novel based on, they feed it all the information of other Harry Potter novels that exist, and then they're like, okay, now make a chapter. And it's the funniest shit in the world. It's just so ridiculous. There's also like some good subreddits where they basically take all the information from other subreddits and other commenters and the titles of posts and the links and etc. And they're subreddits that are literally just entirely filled with bots pretending to be subreddits. So there's like Subreddit Simulator, and then there's a one with a better algorithm called Subreddit Simulator GP2 or something like that. And some of those posts are just the funniest shit in the world. They're either like nonsensical or just like unintentionally perfect in a way. You got to check some of them out. Some of them are really funny.
Yeah. It's like such a stereotype for the most popular, influential filmmakers that make these ridiculous movies like Avatar and like the Hobbit movies and all this, like Peter Jackson, James Cameron, Jon Favreau. They're all obsessed with the technology aspect, and they're using things like VR already to assist in making their computer animated movies, basically. So if they're at like the forefront now, and we can predict that eventually that stuff is going to be feasible to have in our homes, like what is going to be capable, you know, just from someone's basement, effectively, eventually, just because of the technology advancement. It's really interesting to me.
I mean, like, we kind of already have that. It's called Source Filmmaker. But it's...
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Right? That's kind of like mocap. You can use it for mocap, the Xbox Kinect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, true.
So people have that. VR is kind of that too. You can like use motion tracking
full body
in your
tracking
house to do full body tracking, or to make something in your house if you want.
Yeah,
I've known artists who have done that. It's cool.
It's
you don't need to be James Cameron to do shit like that.
Than ever.
And it's going to be even easier like 50 years from now. So it'll be great, unless it's the AI making all the movies.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if. So imagine like the most surprise hits of the past 20 years or something. Like whether or not Avatar is original in concept, it is technically an original IP. Do you think an algorithm could have predicted that it would be the top-selling movie of all time at the time? James Cameron's Avatar. Because there weren't any like really big stars in it. What was the main guy? Like Sam Worthington? Is that who?
Sam Worthington.
Yeah.
Zoe Saldana.
Nobody knows who that is.
Michelle Rodriguez. Yeah, it's like a bunch
and they're all
of
blue aliens anyway. So it's hard to
James
tell.
Cameron. Yeah, it's just technology was the hype about it. But how do you plug that into the algorithm? How do you input that data? How can you tell it that it's like
I don't know.
a
'Cause,
technological
that film was
breakthrough?
sold on a scale.
Yeah.
We're getting to a point now where if we see a trailer for a film like Avatar, it's not impressive just based on the technology alone anymore. Because we have been seeing films like that for ever since it came out, basically. Just these huge, ridiculously, vast films where you see like everything exploding and just thousands upon thousands of things on the screen at once. Like, it's almost like a race for quality now that things are going for. Like, there's so much shit being made. The only things that are really of note are things like Cats that are just a complete failure, or things that are really good that people are talking about on Amazon Prime or Netflix and stuff like that.
Indie stuff. A24.
Well, like The Lighthouse, like that had a weirdly huge reception in terms of like online, conversation, which I thought was really interesting to see. Like that, typically you would never see a response like that from a movie that strange and weird.
Yeah, for like indie movies.
Yeah.
It is getting better. I mean, like, people are becoming more aware of smaller films. It's even more so for the games industry. I feel like the games industry, like, indie is where it's at. All of the best games of the year are like indie games. Like fucking second highest selling game of all time is Minecraft, and like Undertale is a huge hit, and like you can make an indie game and people will fucking pay attention to it. It's a lot more difficult for films, but we are getting closer to that point where it is people are paying attention.
Yeah, because as soon as you're plugged into that machine and there's just obscene amounts of money, like monopoly money on levels none of us could even really understand. Like, of course, like they wind up being these watered down products compared to these risky little films with like tiny budgets in comparison.
Yeah, and I mean, like, at the same time though, regardless of what happens at the studio level, because it's becoming easier than ever for people to make independent films, I mean, it doesn't really destroy art, even if the studio films are not going to make anything artistic anymore. And that's part of the reason why indie games at this point flourish, is because AAA is down the shitter. It's like every AAA title is just like absolute dog shit. Everyone's favorite series getting ruined in microtransactions, and like one of the most predatory entertainment industries that exists. So people are like, oh, I'll just play Undertale, I'll play Minecraft. So I mean, if the film industry becomes as predatory, then I think more people will jump ship at the same time
and turn to indies. Yeah, there's always going to be a market for movies made by people, so I'm not worried, but it's just sad. Whatever.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's just speculation.
Is the concept...
It's just a little Orwellian, I guess.
Yeah, because, I mean, it doesn't even really affect just the film industry. Like, how long have people been predicting, like, how certain jobs are quickly going to be made irrelevant just by technology advancing? You know? Like, it's already happening around us all the time.
Should have learned to code.
Yeah.
All right. There's another... movie-related news thing. Take it away, Ralph.
Parasite.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to buy Parasite. It was between Netflix and HBO. They were really desperate for it. But HBO ended up getting it. I think they're going to make it a miniseries. Yeah. But, I mean, if it's successful, they'll just make it a series like they did with Big Little Lies. So that's what's going to happen. And it'll make tons of money because people love Parasite. It's made over $100 million worldwide.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's really cool.
Everybody's fucking heard about this movie.
Yeah.
The average film goer, or the average film lover, I guess, someone who's excited about movies but doesn't necessarily see a lot of foreign or indie titles, those people have heard of this movie, and a lot of them have seen it. Like, there's serious hype around this movie, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Do you think there's like this craving for like original art films like that? Like such a craving that they'd want to see Parasite, as opposed to all this other crap that's in theaters like Cats and a superhero movie or whatever.
It must be.
Yeah.
People just want to see good movies.
Yeah, now I'm kind of like playing it back to our earlier conversation that we just had, because like it almost seems as though original films with a budget is still happening. They're just Korean movies. It's like,
yeah,
wow,
the landscape's changed.
Just America is
China too.
fucking up a
like
bit.
there's that movie The Mermaid that made hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's
It was
probably
a
not
huge
good
hit.
though.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
No, I've seen it. It's okay.
Oh, yeah?
It's the guy
Stephen
made
Chow,
Shaolin
yeah.
Soccer. Stephen Chow, yeah. I liked it. It's no Shaolin Soccer, it's no Kung Fu Hustle. Absolutely. But it's not that, but it's still solid.
Yeah. If something's really successful in China, I'm immediately skeptical about what kind of movie it is, because they have very different tastes than I do.
Sure.
Yeah, honestly, I think more people would be jumping on these kind of movies if it was simply just easier for people to get hold of them, you know? Like, we always are having problems behind the scenes with movies being released in America and Canada, but I have to wait sometimes up to like 6 months for some of these films to be released over here. So the moment these companies realize that the easier it is for the consumer to get a hold of their product, like the more people are going to be talking about it and the more, you know, news is going to spread like this. Like, thank God for the internet. So we're able to spread our love for things like The Lighthouse and Parasite and stuff, and people are enjoying it because of course they're great, you know, like the Golden Globes, the director came up and he had his cool speech that was spread around and there was a great response to that. Like,
yeah,
there's some good coming from it for sure.
I'm really proud of my favorite Bong. He's the best.
Everyone making articles like a Bong hit.
Yeah, I think what wound up helping him is that he directed a few English language features that were successful enough that people were like, I like this guy. And then people were like, oh, you know, they see a foreign film and maybe they might be unsure of it at first, but they know like, oh, I liked Snowpiercer. It says it's from the director of Snowpiercer. I think that might have helped actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I don't think his American films are as good as his Korean films, but still.
I also agree, yeah.
It could be turned into a miniseries and still be fine. My problem is that, like, a lot of Asian stories being adapted into a North American setting, a lot of the time just don't work as well. And with Adam McKay's name attached to it, it's not sounding great, honestly. I don't really like
really?
him.
Yeah.
But the Old Boy remake was so good.
Oh, God.
Jesus.
Yeah, and like the Death
we don't talk
Note
about
remake, and yeah, just adapted into America. The Grudge
Especially
remake.
if Netflix got it. Wow.
2020?
Imagine that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really not a big fan of Adam McKay.
No, I don't think he's going to make something as good as this film. But it's got like a good basic premise.
Yeah.
And they'll stretch that out.
The way this article is written,
Yeah.
it makes it sound like Bong Joon-ho is involved in it. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Which would be great.
Might be a producer or something.
Maybe he'll direct the pilot.
That would be
great.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it depends on his involvement, really.
Yeah. Like Scorsese directed the pilot for Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
Big directors do that stuff.
Could definitely be worse.
Yeah, definitely.
If Sony picked it up, maybe it'd be more...
I think if
cause for alarm.
Netflix picked it up, I'd be more worried.
Yeah.
Although HBO recently has been slacking. I don't know. That Game of Thrones season was not the best.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that Watchmen show. I've heard mixed things.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Got a good soundtrack there.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just trying to find...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we are. So people have been making... Like obviously the talk about Parasite getting a North American, or sorry, just American, I guess, remake. It's been a discussion for a while, obviously, because it's a very successful foreign film, and people are always pissed off at these American remakes, especially in our subreddits. And so people have been making like troll joke article screen caps that are fake, that they made before this Adam McKay thing. And so just to piss people off, there was this one posted on the subreddit that was like really obviously fake and people downvoted it, so I had to scroll a couple pages to find it. It was like, Parasite American remake coming in 2022 from Sony under working title The Job Thief, aiming for PG rating. Just like the worst things you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're saying that it'll include Amy Schumer, Kevin James, Ninja, and Tana Mongeau. They'll play the Kim family. Kevin Hart and Leslie Jones portraying the Park family. It's just like, it sounds so bad, but it almost sounds like it could be true. Like, there's people that could definitely believe this because it's like a lot of things are just this bad anyway. I just think it's funny that,
that is hilarious.
People are taking advantage of the situation and knowing just what would piss people off the most. I think that's so funny.
I hope it's good.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's whether or not it's good. I hope it brings attention to the original, and Joon-ho Bong makes a lot of money and is able to solidify himself in the industry more than he already has. I mean, he's probably like the biggest Korean director right now, as much as I love Park Chan-wook. But yeah, he's really moving up globally, which is insane. Park Chan-wook tried to do an American movie. It wasn't really that successful. I still haven't seen it. Stoker? He kind of just abandoned that whole thing.
Didn't he do a miniseries too?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Was that him? Is it the little drummer girl?
Something like that. Yeah, that's newer. I still have to watch that.
Yeah, but I think that's an American thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because that's on my watch list.
Yeah. Go Korea. I love Korean movies.
Yeah. You seem to get it.
Yeah. Speaking of movies, did you guys want to talk about 1917? I don't know. I was going to say,
talk about a movie.
I was going to tie it in somehow, and then I just
Speaking
couldn't
of war,
figure out how to do it.
These are both war movies. We can tie war in.
We saw 1917. We all saw it. The new Sam Mendes, the visionary director of some James Bond movies and Things We Lost in the Fire, and also American Beauty, which is his best movie.
Road to Perdition as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of forgettable ones that he has in there.
That was okay.
I think I remember having seen it. I don't remember anything about it.
Tom Hanks is in it. There's a lot of rain.
Like he's in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think?
I liked it. Once I got out of it, I read Ralph's review on Letterboxd, and I'm pretty much on the same page as him. I think, nearly in every way, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what's the best way to describe it? Just like a visceral experience kind of movie, where it's all about like the production of it and just the way it was presented. Because otherwise, it's fairly by the books kind of stuff that we've seen from films like this before. World War One. Intimate kind of look at the, just the horrors of it all. But it is through the magnificent kind of set design and the thoughtfulness of how they put it all together that made it entertaining throughout for me. I'm curious what Adam thinks, because I know he's not on the same page as us.
Yeah. So what you're saying is without the without the technical elements, it would really just be a basic war movie and nothing else, right?
Yeah.
On a story level, it's very surface level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wanted to see this movie because of the technical elements, and in that way, I just I couldn't get into it as much as I was hoping to, and I felt kind of cheated by the marketing in a way, because it almost felt like
that's interesting.
The one shot gimmick didn't really serve any purpose in the movie. When you watch a film like Birdman, there's plenty of tonal and artistic and very much thematic purpose towards presenting a movie in that way. Whereas in this film, I don't really feel like it helped the movie. It didn't help the experience of the movie. And and when I was watching it, not only are there so many spots where the places where they would cut it are just so incredibly obvious, but it didn't really feel like a single take movie. And let's ignore the fact that they just cut to hard black in the middle of the movie that they advertised as being a single take, all in one shot appearing, or
it appears to be all one take.
Yeah, in real time movie.
And I guess it is real time if you count that part because he passes out.
Yeah.
If you like going
trying
from
not
his
to
point
spoil
of view,
much,
but still.
but when I go into a movie like that, I'm hoping to see something really meticulously coordinated or beautifully shot. And by the end of it, I see Roger Deakins' name there. I'm like, holy shit, that was Deakins? Like, it didn't really feel like a movie from him that, I could compare to ones where I've been like insanely impressed by it. Like, yes, the pretend one shot element makes it slightly better than if it were shot really blandly, but like most of the movie, it didn't even feel like that's what it was. It's like you barely notice it at all. I watched it with people that didn't see the marketing, and they were like, oh, like I didn't even know that it was trying to be like a one-shot movie. And I felt that way watching it. It was really weird. It felt like a really wasted opportunity when that's what the marketing was.
That's interesting, because I went in completely blind. Hadn't even seen a trailer. Didn't know anything about any of this marketing. So for me, that really wasn't an issue. And I didn't have I thought it really came across like it was kind of meticulously shot and put together, and the way, because it was like every sequence was presented as, a one-er effectively with the hidden kind of cuts in there. But even with that, there's still like minutes of footage where so much coordination had to be, sorted out.
There's two specific points, I would say. And they got a lot of playtime in the trailer, those two scenes.
Yeah.
That's part of why I feel cheated. Most of it is just two people walking around.
Okay. Yeah, but I don't really agree with the Roger Deakins, like it not really feeling like one of his movies, because I really enjoyed the way it was shot more than anything.
Yeah, I thought it looked great.
I thought it was very clever.
Especially a coast or that city that's lit at night. Like that all looks amazing. That was incredible. But
man,
yeah, like you said, on the story level, there's just not a lot going on, really. And it has like a lot of those, like the checklist of war movies. Like he goes in a basement and he finds like a baby and a woman.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just, and then he leaves them.
He can't eat that. He needs milk. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, he happens to have
so
it.
much cheesy
but there wasn't like an
bullshit in this
emotional
movie.
scene. Yeah. It didn't work really.
The milk thing was definitely the weakest, aspect to me. I didn't really see the point in that kind of setup payoff. Like, normally if you're going to do something like that, it's for something vital, but that one in particular was like, okay.
Yeah. I enjoyed more like the silent moments, or like when there was facial acting, like the two main guys just walking around or like reacting to things. I thought then they were great. It was like the dialogue scenes that I thought were more forced.
The dialogue was terrible.
Some parts, yeah.
It was super cheeseball.
There was some like cheesy stuff, but that really didn't bug me that much. Do you guys just hate British people? What's your problem?
Yeah, that's it. You got me.
Well, some of it felt cheesy because of the music. I
was
too.
about to go into the music.
That was my
for sure.
In an experience movie, I kind of
awful.
want to feel like I'm there, and we just saw a film, Come and See, that has a lot of moments that are really disturbing and messed up because of the way it uses sound. And here it was like it wasn't bad music, but it just took me out of the horror of war.
It wasn't great
It kind of
music
just felt
either.
like
It lacked the intensity.
Yeah. It lacked the intensity of what I was watching. Like when he was running across the battlefield, like bombs are going off. And he's like knocking into people too. So like some people were laughing in the theater.
Yeah.
But they're playing this hopeful music. And I'm like, if you just let the moment just play out without the music, then people could just kind of read into it however they want.
Yeah. The music
thought it would've
pissed
been
me off a
slightly better.
lot, actually.
Yeah, there were a few moments.
It was my least favorite thing about the movie was the music in particular.
Yeah.
It was just too much. Like, just like you've already got all the pieces in play, and there's enough sort of like to, visualize and watch. Like, you don't need to play this kind of overbearing music all the time that sounds really familiar to what Newman's done for years now.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned Road to Perdition, and it's a problem I have with that movie too, where it's just, stop with the music, okay? Like, you don't have to tell me how to feel constantly. Like, it helps sometimes, but just all the time it starts to just become irritating and distract from the scenes.
Yeah.
It ruins the moments where they do use it well.
There are probably 3 different points in the movie where I thought the music worked fine. And it was more of like a tonal thing. So when they're getting the orders near the beginning of the movie, and the general or whatever his ranking is telling them, you gotta do this, tell them to stop the battle. There's really kind of like tense music going on, but it's not overbearing. There's this, it's very subtle.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's there, and it's helping the tone. It's helping you experience the intensity of what's going to happen. It's got like this kind of foreboding nature to it. And then for most of the movie, it's like it feels so forced. It feels too loud, too overbearing, trying to influence emotions that aren't even necessarily in the film or would be better without the music. Like as soon as they leave their trench and they're going to the other trench, and they're like kind of like walking slowly with their guns out, like we're not sure if there's still Germans in this trench or whatever, walking slowly around, and the music's going like ba 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 ba, and then like the music stops immediately when they like go around the corner. I'm like, holy fuck, this is the cheesiest shit. It's like at that moment I was just like emotionally checked out, and I couldn't get back into it the rest of the movie, no matter how hard they tried. It wasn't just like the single moment that like ruined the movie. If the rest of the movie was fine, then that would be another story. But like the rest of the movie was just basically that to some degree. And I couldn't take it seriously, which is just so sad, because I was actually looking forward to this. You could even say I wanted to enjoy it, but it was really difficult for me to take seriously the entire time. Everything was just like really over dramatic and cheesy.
I really didn't think it was that. I thought there was more positives than negatives for sure.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Adam, but
yeah,
the positives, I think, overweigh that, the technical aspect of it.
I don't know. Music affects me.
There is something.
It really does.
There is something tonally off about it too, because it is so staged and it is so precise, and it kind of loses that war feeling of that intensity, like that Saving Private Ryan, which is very quick cut and the high shutter speed and all that. I think that's more visceral than what this is.
Yeah,
which is beautiful, but it's not. I'm not getting that same gut punch.
It doesn't help the movie.
Like Dunkirk is the pacing in that is crazy, and the use of time is very weird, but I found that way more intense.
Both the music and the editing in that film help the film.
Yeah.
Whereas this just feels like it would help a different movie.
Why couldn't this be 5 shots? You can have really long takes that are super impressive. It's just is the one take thing going too far now? Is it just if you have a long take, it's going to be good?
It just feels contradictory to what the movie is trying to be tonally. Like they're not
somewhat
the same. It feels like it's different movies trying to be the same movie and just conflicting with each other. That's kind of what pisses me off about it, is I was going into this hoping to see some sort of art film, and then it turned out to be just a really basic war movie with some extra icing on top. That just pissed me off, because if I knew it was going to be that, I wouldn't have bought a ticket. I'm really not interested in seeing basic war movies, even if there's a little bit of icing on top.
Like Hacksaw Ridge?
Yeah. I'm really.
I like basic war movies,
yeah,
especially if they're corny.
Than Hacksaw Ridge.
I think it's better than Hacksaw Ridge.
A lot of people have a huge boner for basic war movies, and I'm just I can't. I understand that there's a huge market for it, but I just I'm not interested.
A lot of the stuff just didn't bug me. I kind of liked the simplicity of how it began. I think it did sag later on in the movie, but I did like the way it was you just have 2 characters. They're given a goal. It's a really simple but difficult to achieve goal, and what they have to go through. And it's like a journey movie. It's almost like fucking Lord of the Rings or something, where it's just a tiny group and they've got to get from A to B, and all the chaos that's in the middle is really what is the interesting part about it. The Warner aspect of it kind of enhanced the journey. For me, you really felt like you saw the entire journey of how they got from A to B. I think that's what they were going for, but you're right, it does sometimes conflict with the visceral nature of war movies are known for, some of the better ones, Come and See, Dunkirk. I think that's one thing that film nailed comparatively. But I didn't mind a lot of these things. That they did bug me and they were there, but I thought overall the experience was, valuable enough, because I just think the time period's really interesting, and they depicted it in a way that seemed, fairly true to, how it would have been with, all the rats and the misery and the death and the, it's very heavy in that sense. I enjoyed a lot of it.
Yeah. When it was clear what the plot was going to be when they got their orders, I was like, hell yeah. I was still on board at that point, and I was thinking in my head that the simplicity of it would be something that I was praising, and that alone is totally fine.
The beginning's great. It reminded me of like Paths of Glory, how they were walking through the trenches just talking for like 10 minutes or so. It was very cool.
The production design
was once they got out,
was great.
It started to fall apart.
The costumes were great. It's just at its core what the movie is just so fucking boring and stupid to me. And I just and it doesn't matter how much you doll it up with this whole one take gimmick that they betray in the movie. And like it's not really a one take thing anymore, and it's like, okay, fuck, it's not even pretending. You lied to me, Sam Mendes. It's the marketing that pisses me off a bit too. I might have given this 1 point higher if I hadn't seen any of the marketing, honestly.
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
When I was watching this movie, at any given moment, any different scene that I was watching, I would think to myself, man, I wish I was watching blank, and it would be a different movie every time. They're floating down the river, I'd be like, man, I wish I was watching The Revenant. At night, running around and almost getting shot, I'm like, man, I wish I was watching The Pianist. And then other points of the movie, I was like, man, I wish I was watching Dunkirk. It's just every single bit of this movie is just so underwhelming in comparison to great movies that are essentially doing very similar things at any given point in time. There wasn't really anything new that happened in this movie, and so I'm just left wishing that I was watching something better.
I understand that. It does feel like something that was elevated by the technical execution of it, because the story itself is very lacking.
Mm-hmm.
But it still works, kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Gravity, kind of.
I wish it was more epic. The trailers made it seem like it was going to be this like hugely coordinated, meticulous like war movie, and then it was kind of for like 2 scenes for like not even 10 minutes.
It is just on an intimate scale.
I think the whole thing is pretty like meticulous, and
it's just them walking for most of it.
Yeah, but even that was meticulous. It has its moments, like when they're in the trench and they're scared by like a skull or something that's in the dirt, and he dips his hand in some dead body or something.
That was like kind of slapsticky. It was kind of funny.
Kind of, but it got a visceral oof out of me.
Yeah.
The whole tone of the thing was very almost Hacksaw Ridgey.
I mean, like
it wasn't like a real war. It felt like a movie. It felt like a performance.
Directly before that, when he like cuts his hand on the barbed wire, I was like, oh, that looked really fake. And then it was immediately answered by like, oh, it's because he sticks his hand in the thing. And, you know, by the end of it, I was like, I guess it was worth it for that really fake, like, pretend to cut yourself moment. But, you know... And like, I don't want to spoil too much at the same time, but so I'm just going to be cryptic about this. When there's that explosion, and it's just like, it felt so bizarre and cheesy, just like how that was resolved in terms of like both the camera work and like the logic of what had just happened.
Which explosion?
Okay, spoiler talk.
I assume you mean the one early on, yeah.
Spoiler talk. Yeah, when there's the tripwire or whatever, and it's just like, I'm just like covered by rubble, and it was just like there was obvious cuts there too, and I'm just like immediately like I can't believe they marketed it as this like one shot thing when they just don't even really fucking try that much.
Yeah, not really. Well, they have big actors in this too, and I guess
that was
have
really
them
weird.
On set for like the entire day, right? So they had to cut before their scene started at some point.
Well, no, I'm not saying that there shouldn't have been cuts. In Birdman, there were many cuts.
I know.
Right? But it was much better masked in terms of where the cuts were. There are a couple moments in Birdman where I'm thinking like, yeah, it was probably here. Like it goes into like a bit of
I'm saying like you said the whole time I was thinking about the one cut thing. I was thinking about like, okay, they cut here because they needed to get Benedict Cumberbatch to come in for this day. But he wasn't going to be on set.
He was like, so
I kept
distracting.
thinking about that and not the actual story.
That was like a weird comedy cameo.
Yeah, he like refused to surrender or like give up, like have his men retreat.
It was so weird seeing him at the very end as this like hugely recognizable face. I guess also because I wasn't really buying the movie. That was probably it.
That's why the whole thing felt like a play to me, because there were all those recognizable actors. It's so like precise in how it's laid out and meticulous.
It did feel like a play, yeah. I'd agree.
Yeah, I was just really underwhelmed by pretty much every element.
Yeah, I thought, like, I don't know if it is because I don't feel lied to or anything, like, but it just didn't, like, I never got even remotely as annoyed as you got at the movie. Like, I thought it was, at its worst, serviceable, and above it, just, pretty entertaining. A way of presenting a story like this I hadn't seen with this skin over it. I've seen plenty of movies that have this continuous facade thing, but yeah, it would have been nice maybe to have, some sequences that were all presented in that, one shot kind of style with a, little bit more in between, because it did take me a while to figure out, is the whole movie going to be like a one-er then? Is that what they're going for with this? I didn't realize they were going to do that, but it didn't really bug me. Like, it genuinely didn't.
I wish you guys had seen The Climb by this point. It's playing at Sundance, Ralph, if you want to catch it there.
Oh, yeah?
Because, like, each one of the scenes in that movie is its own separate, like, one-take shot. And that was a movie made for, like, I don't know, $50,000 or some shit, just by, like, two guys self-funding the whole thing. There was more impressive shit happening in that than in this movie. Like, I was more into the nature of how that was shot and the coordination behind what was going on than I ever was in this movie. It had the expectation of me supposed to be impressed by it, and I just wasn't. And I wanted to be so bad. I was actually looking forward to this.
We have like the inverse like responses, because like I really wasn't like hyped or anything for the movie. I knew nothing about it, didn't watch any marketing, and I went in and enjoyed it as a result.
That might have been why.
I don't know.
Well, I was looking forward to it. I had much the same reaction as Adam, but I still liked the movie. I still think has its moments.
Yeah.
It is solid, I think.
I don't think it's terrible. I just like.
Oh no, I thought I was being negative on the movie, so I'm glad.
I'm the most upset in movies I'm just gonna forget about.
Yeah.
And I'm completely gonna forget about this.
Yeah, I'm not really gonna remember it beyond. How did you feel about the main character basically being killed pretty early on?
I mean, I don't know. There were kind of two main characters. He was more of the main-ish character. I knew one of them was going to die. Like, that was pretty obvious. I didn't take his death seriously. It was really overdramatic, especially... I found it really kind of funny when he got stabbed, honestly. I was not into it. And I wasn't trying to hate the movie. I was just like, well, yeah, because he's a fucking idiot.
It's the guy from Game of Thrones. What's his name? Tommen.
Yeah. It's just like presenting him as this noble, like, no, he needs water. Like, what have you been doing in this work? His friend leaves for a second. And he just lets himself get stabbed. What a fucking idiot.
That didn't bother me, though, because they were like naive children.
It's a very okay moment.
And like the whole sequence of events leading up to that, where they see the planes in the sky, and then one comes crashing down, like literally right exactly where they are. And, like, it's so obvious that that's going to happen, but the two characters don't realize it because they're not the audience, I guess. The guy survives, and he's, like, on fire. They pull him. It was just such a weird sequence of events, and I was just not on board by that point, and so I just couldn't deal with it. Yeah. I was just kind of amused by him getting stabbed.
I quite liked that.
Yeah.
I thought it established that they were willing to, There were stakes in the story for me at that point. I wasn't expecting it.
Did you not expect one of them to die?
I expected one of them to die, but I thought they were clearly setting up that the other one was going to die at the beginning with him slicing his hand and then putting it in the body. I thought that was going to be some, like, he's going to die of some sickness or some shit.
Or when the rat blows up the thing they're in. Like, I thought he died there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like shot in real time, supposedly. Like, that was the marketing, and me being familiar with the marketing, it was like, you're not going to get an infection and die from it within 2 hours. So I never expected that.
That's true.
And then they just cheated it, and it was because like at the beginning of the movie, it was like, oh, you can make it there in like
you're right, Adam.
6 hours.
You're actually right, because if the movie had cut, or if it took place over like a few weeks, that would have actually meant something. I would have been like, oh, it's gonna get infected. He's gonna lose his hand. But nothing happens with that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just there to subvert your expectations.
It was just like a slapstick moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to make you go, ew.
There are moments like that where it just feels like, oh, this is a movie. We need something exciting to happen. A fucking plane flies in. Stuff like that. But I don't mind it. And then immediately after that, like, the army shows up.
Oh, yeah, and, like, they don't hear them at all, and it was really weird.
Yeah, they just show up. They walk through the house, and the whole army's there.
Their trucks are, like, already there.
Yeah.
There's, like, at least 50 people, and they're just all silently creeped up behind them on this farm. And then the guy, like, when he's running around in the town at night or whatever, and this guy comes up to him, and he pulls out his gun. And then he's like, he decides to shoot him while he's running. I found that a little comical. Like, you have this perfect moment where you could just, like, take a stance, pull out your rifle, and just end his life. But instead, he decides to, like, run at him with his rifle while shooting and trips and falls. Like, I guess he was drunk or something, but...
That guy kind of looked like a CGI computer model.
Might have been.
I might be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but that's what it looks like.
Oh, God. There was that moment where he, like... fell off the waterfall. That was some bad CG. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah. I mean, there were little moments like that didn't take me out of the movie. When The Rock was like, there was a point where they cut, there was like a huge rock that went right in front of the screen.
Yeah.
That was a pretty obvious one.
That was annoying.
But most of them, they didn't bother me. I was okay with it. I just wish on a story level, it connected with me more and the characters were better.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
And it could have cut. It would have been slightly better, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, whatever. All right. I guess that's it for the discussion, unless you guys have more to add.
No.
Okay. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. It's not terrible, but it pisses me off. So, it's just...
Yeah, like 3.5 stars. It was 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm the same with you, Ralph. 7 out of 10. When I have to defend like a movie that I'm not even that passionate about, it makes it sound like I love it. When it's just like, no, like I had a good time. It's not something I'm going to really remember, and really it should only be watched if you're really passionate about World War One and that kind of time frame, because it is really interesting from a historical perspective, or just for the technical aspects.
I wish I was watching the Jackson documentary. Fuck.
I was thinking about that Jackson documentary.
Yeah.
They Shall Not Grow Old, while watching it, and yeah, they go kind of well together, I'd say, if you want like a more action-packed depiction of that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
7 out of 10.
All right.
Didn't it win Best Movie at Golden Globes?
It won Best Drama, yeah.
Best Drama. Wow. Drama.
I'll be upset if it wins Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah, I don't think it's Best Picture at all.
No.
Mm-hmm.
They might give it to Parasite. I hope that's what they do.
It would be
Whatever.
monumental if that's what happened. And I'm kind of hopeful that would happen. It seems like this would be the year if it happened. But I don't fucking know, because the Oscars disappoint so often. Anyway, there was a movie that was recommended last episode.
Yes, so it was my choice to recommend, and I recommended 1985's Come and See, directed by Elem Klimov. Is that how you say it? It's Russian, obviously, so I'm not a native speaker.
Mm-hmm.
But keeping on with this war theme, we've just gone from World War One now to a World War II movie.
Electric Boogaloo.
Where the basic premise is all through the eyes of a young boy who kind of joins a Soviet like resistance who are fighting against like the Nazis effectively, and it's all about viewing the horrors of war through the eyes of an innocent little child, and how completely fucking ruthless and horrendous and pointless the whole thing was. A very anti-war type of stance, which isn't like a new thing for a war movie to do, but it's one of the more affecting ones I have seen, and I thought it was absolutely excellent. I don't know what about you guys.
Yeah, it is very hard to watch.
Yeah, it's one of those like reputation movies, I think, that has a bit of a like, this movie's gonna ruin your day type of movies. And for a lot of it I was like, I'm not sure why it has that reputation. Oh, and then like the last 40 minutes kicked in, I was like, oh my fucking god, this is
Spoiler
not
discussion.
Pulling any punches. Yeah. It's really affecting the way it slowly unravels, starting with like a innocent little boy and going all the way to just the look on his face says it all. It's so harrowing and disturbing just watching something so innocent be dragged into such an awful, pointless conflict.
He becomes a very wrinkly boy by the end of the movie.
Yeah. Like I was reading in the trivia that the director struggled with like the morality of putting a kid into, even if it's all acting and, you know, on a set and everything, like the morality of putting a child actor into something as hardcore as this, because there's no way you can really edit around the way it's presented. Like, he's seeing everything around him. It's like the whole point of the movie. But yeah, dude, I love the performance from that main kid. I thought,
yeah, absolutely,
it's all in the face.
Yeah,
the makeup in this movie is like incredible. Like how like they make everyone look very dirty and like decrepit, and just it's brutal to watch. It really is brutal to watch, the whole thing. And yeah, he was great. There's
a really, really great progression of the character as the film goes on. Near the beginning, he's like constantly laughing and pretty indifferent towards his mother's suffering, not taking things seriously, still naive, hasn't yet experienced any real true horrors. Like it's this childlike innocence that is just snatched away as the film progresses, and you can see him literally basically just turn into like an old man being shell-shocked.
Yeah, there's that moment where they're running away from the home, and the camera like quickly spins around, and you see the just pile of bodies outside. It kind of ramps up from there, and just doesn't really let go. It's so like chaotic and brutal. It's really hard to watch at points, especially when they're like throwing kids into like a burning building and shit like that. Like it's really heavy.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the way to do it. If you're going to talk about these types of subjects where the reality is really disturbing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good idea to be faithful to that.
Absolutely. That's what makes it so powerful.
I didn't look up a lot about the movie, but apparently it's very historically accurate to, was the Belarusians were like
Belarusians?
Belarusian?
That was so Western.
I'm not
Belarusian,
a history major.
Neither am I. But just, I forgot what I was talking about. Whatever.
You said it was historically accurate.
Yeah, it was very historically accurate from what I know to how they're suffering and what they went through. And that's what made it even more powerful.
It's a unique perspective as well. Like, as Westerners, we don't really know that much about Russia unless we study it. So seeing it through the eyes of people from over there is really interesting on that level alone, let alone like what actually happens in the movie. Like, there's so much like imagery that's seared into my mind now from the way they presented it. Like, for some reason, the cow and the close-up on the eye really stands out in my mind.
Yeah.
Lots of little stuff like that.
Lots of great artistic moments in this movie. Lots of great imagery. There's like, he steps on like the bird eggs. And there's like baby bird chicks just like dying. There's a lot of really good artistic choices in this movie. The sound design I thought was like one of the best aspects. Really great, especially for the 1980s. It's not overbearing to any degree. It's not like it replaces what you're seeing, but it really emphasizes what you're seeing. And much of the soundtrack, there's so many points where you wouldn't even really notice that there's anything going on in that sense unless you're like trying to pay attention to it. But yeah, there's a lot of like really subtle kind of like low bassy, droney kind of sounds that really help bring out this sort of like tension and anxiety for the viewer.
Yeah, which is especially important considering there really isn't that much dialogue in the movie. Like it's like an experience, the whole thing. Like there's constant chatting, and a lot of the story is told through just what you're seeing. So yeah, the sound is very important to keep it cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the film looks beautiful too.
Yeah,
I thought it looked gorgeous.
Really well shot.
The last shot was like amazing. It like went through the forest. That was a great one take.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that way back when. So
near the beginning of the film, when I at least came to the conclusion that this was going to be a movie that I really loved, was when I noticed just how distinct and well presented each of the characters were. Even characters that are really not too important to the story, they're also memorable. Like the little boy at the beginning and his dynamic with the main character, even the soldiers that show up at their house at the beginning and the guy like pretending he like took off his nose and stuff like that. The way that they're talking, like the guy setting up the camera shot with all the soldiers trying to get everybody to pose properly. It's not just thrown together. Like each of these characters is so distinct and watchable and memorable, and that really helps the movie a lot. Whereas like if these characters were like boring and bland and forgettable, these scenes might not work as well.
Yeah, it feels like one of those like fly on the wall kind of movies where the depiction of everything is strangely realistic, but also there's this, I don't know, like magical air. Like it feels odd, like there's something mysterious to it. Like it's unique in that way, and the dread and the look of everything, like it all comes together very well. I didn't really have any complaints, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of like that scene where the main character meets the girl and they bond over crying and laughing at the same time. Like there's a really maniacal and hysterical element that is presented in this film of just like the absurdity of war and all this trauma and conflict. It's not just feel sad torture porn kind of movie. Like there is this kind of crazy element to it as well, which I think is really essential to capture. It's people's sanity disappearing. It's people literally breaking down, their entire worlds breaking down around them and trying to process that in any kind of emotional way.
It feels apocalyptic almost.
Yeah.
It's like hell on earth. And that's really what makes it interesting, because it happened. Like this stuff was going on. Like they say at the end, like some extra details before the credits. Like it's so sick to watch, and just to see these people flip-flop between just what like orders they're given and how people react when they're just pushed to the most extreme like limits, Like that was what was really interesting to me, just watching these soldiers and react to what they've been given to do with and then when they're captured and they've got to suddenly flip and like beg for their lives. Like it really doesn't hold anything back and shows just the depravity of it all. Like it really works on that level, just to highlight. Like I'm not sure if I've really seen a better anti-war movie like than this. I think it's probably my favorite one. I did think about that movie a lot. While watching
that's like
this.
another film that was hard to watch as well.
Yeah, where that film's obviously a lot more metaphorical in the way they present the same kind of ideas, but this is really
more comical.
Yeah, exactly. This was more serious to me in the presentation. Not that I hate Salo or anything.
Of course.
I got lots of Son of Saul vibes from this movie, which obviously came out much later. Possibly due to the aspect ratio, possibly due to the whole Nazi thing. There are plenty of points in this film where it feels like very chaotic, but also like very claustrophobic. And although it's not necessarily the intentional filming style to have a movie that constantly feels tight like that, but parts where it's like in the barn. Was it a barn or a church that they lit on fire? I wasn't sure. Because there wasn't like any pews in there.
I think it was a barn.
It was a barn.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
When all of them are getting like crammed in there, and like you actually see it from the interior, and just everybody's like packed in there.
That
like
one soldier.
That was one of the most uncomfortable scenes for me.
Yeah.
Because I was immediately feeling like claustrophobia watching that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
because you also know what happened in World War II, so you can take a guess at what's about to happen.
Yeah, and if you didn't, you knew what happened earlier in the movie. It was to the village he came from.
Exactly, yeah. So it's one for the whole family. So gather around with granny and grandpa and watch this one.
Double feature with Space Jam.
Yeah.
I loved like a little detail, like the kid bandaging up his gun.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was like
cool.
a nice irony to that. Like, look, I'm bandaging up the gun because war bad, and like this is more important than all the people that are dying around me. No, I've got to make sure my gun is in top condition.
Yeah, he doesn't really use it. He carries it around like the whole movie.
Because like, what else would you do? Like, you're in a war scenario. Like, you're gonna want to be armed, even if you don't really know how to use it.
Yeah, he just winds up trying to hide it most of the time.
Yeah,
because it's like, I don't know. It would only come in handy if it's like you versus one, not you versus like an entire troop. So there were certain shots where they had those like tracing bullets going past the screen. Does anybody know how that was pulled off? Are those like fireworks, or like did they just shoot above the actors, or like what happened there?
I have a feeling they might have actually used live rounds.
Yeah.
I might have to check the trivia. I was looking through the trivia yesterday after I watched it.
This is why I want to see the Criterion thing. It's because like I know it'll be loaded with some special features, so I hope that gets a Blu-ray soon, because I'd be really hyped to watch all those.
The first piece of trivia on IMDb is live ammunition was used in the film. In interviews, one of the actors described actual bullets passing some 10 centimeters above his head, so no wonder it feels so real.
Holy shit. So they actually just fucking murdered a cow. Nice.
That's crazy.
Russia, man.
Yeah. It died for art. It's fine.
Yeah.
They kill a cow in Apocalypse Now, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever. Nobody has to eat McDonald's either. There were some really great practical effects. I was impressed when the soldier was pulling the girl by her hair, because basically, if you were to take like drama class or something and you're learning how to cheat these types of, I guess, like fighting effects, what you're taught is like the actor grabs the person's hair and then the person whose hair is being pulled basically uses one of their hands on top of the other actor's hands, and so they always have the control of holding their own weight on top of the other actor's hands. So there's no actual hair being pulled. But in this film, her hands are like dangling way in front of her.
That's a great point. Yeah, it makes it very vivid.
Oh yeah, like it feels so much more real. So many other movies do the one that I had earlier described. This one, I think what they probably did was they probably had like a rope attached to her chest or waist or something, or like under her shoulders, and it going through her ponytail or something, so that the actor was like pulling on the rope and not necessarily like it looks like it's her. I don't know.
I thought they just really did it.
Yeah, who knows?
That's right.
Yeah. But either way, the effect looked really, really real, and that was really cool.
But that's part of what is so good about it is, despite the film being fairly, not modern, because the 80s is a long time ago now, but the film feels like it is depicting the 40s. Like, it doesn't feel like it was made in 1985. It feels very true to what it's trying to depict, which is so essential for how overbearing the subject matter is. Like, they had to do it just right and present it in the right way, so we weren't able to nitpick it in the way we are a film like 1917, for example, which is about subject matter just as horrible.
I really enjoyed the pacing of the movie as well. There was a lot of like great build up, and as I mentioned earlier, all the characters were very distinct, and that helped with the pacing as well. But yeah, the whole last. Did you actually time it? Was it literally like the last 40 minutes of the movie where that whole scene went down? Because that went on longer. A while, but it was all so great. Like it was perfect for what the movie should be. Like this absolute chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a Gaspar Noé's climax sort of thing. It's like we're not gonna let you go. This is gonna keep going.
I suppose it is sort of the climax of the movie in the most horrendous way possible. But you're right, it really does hammer home the point, like if it hadn't already sold you on it to begin with by then.
Yeah.
Like, this shit was... It doesn't get much worse than this. Like, I kept thinking about Cormac McCarthy's story, The Road. you guys read or seen the movie?
I saw the movie. I wasn't big on the movie, but
I've seen the movie.
I'm a fan of the book, actually, and like atmospherically has a very similar kind of feel to it, because it is like an apocalyptic scenario, and it's about just someone going through it and trying to survive in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like what the end of humanity brings out of people. It's like the whole point of the story, and the film has a very same sort of meaning to it, in the sense where it's like this, like, look at what we allowed to happen effectively, like this cannot happen again type thing, like you cannot let anything like this go on. Like, it's so awful. Yeah,
it's a very very depressing but really great movie.
Yeah, so it's one of those, I think it belongs in that list of like important historical films that will like Schindler's List, like Son of Saul, like a lot of these movies
the great World War II movies especially, or like ones depicting the horrors, especially, not so much the action ones.
It gives you just a realistic enough of a slice to kind of empathize with what it was like.
Yeah, but it's not manipulative. It's very blunt.
No.
In how it presents it.
The bluntness of it is what makes it effective.
Yeah,
it really isn't trying to hide like.
Because there's nothing you need to dramatize or like liven up.
Yeah,
it's not. It's already the extreme. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I've often thought that some of the scariest films to me are war movies. I think there's nothing more frightening than the truth of like some of the stuff that has been done historically, and the fact that it hasn't even been 100 years since this was happening makes it even more poignant to me, especially with all the endless political and war talk that's going on even now.
Yeah,
like, it's important to be reminded of this kind of thing every now and again, to do everything in our power to avoid it. Remind ourselves how horrendous it is.
Oops.
Oopsie doopsie.
Oopsie. We briefly mentioned the I guess live ammunition that was being used. There's a couple other shots where it's clear that probably wouldn't fly too well with acting standards, placing like your actors right next to these huge explosions. They run away and then they go off, and like the dirt flies and like hits the camera too. Like, holy shit. Better hope that they know which way to run when you yell action. They don't go the other way. Because there were some like actual explosions happening really close to these actors as they ran away. There was the guy that like jumps out of the roof of the barn or whatever as it's on fire, as other actors are throwing Molotov cocktails at it. Literally just like jumping out of a burning building with, holy shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of impressive stuff happening here. And it's like, you almost don't even think about it in that way because the movie is so convincing. Like, you're just like sucked into it and like, oh yeah, this is real or whatever. Like, it flows so well. But yeah, there's a lot of really impressive stuff going on, both technically and coordinating. And I don't know. I felt more impressed by some of the sequences in this film, especially near the end, like with that whole chaotic 40-minute climax or whatever. I was so much more into it and impressed by it and like all the coordination going on than I was at any moment of 1917.
I knew that was coming.
And like, yeah, you don't even have, it doesn't even have to be like, ooh, this was all in one take. Like, there's any given shot where I'm like, I'm impressed by how coordinated this is and how well it flows from one place to the next. And like, you're seeing all this chaos happening and people being dragged along through these crowds, and like every single actor is like given something to do. Yeah, a lot of crazy shit happening.
Yeah. 1917 was just such a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Because of that. Because there's like these visceral reactions you get out of people, or like we can really ponder the horrors of war in these movies like this. And it's just like an action movie, which is fine. It's entertaining, but it could have been something more than that. And it really wasn't.
Sam Mendes.
we gotta go back to 1917, but this movie, it's great. It's totally different from 1917, so we shouldn't even compare it.
Sorry.
Like, totally.
He can help himself. Is there anything we didn't like about Come and See then? Because I'm struggling.
It made me feel awful, but that's not a complaint.
Yeah, you can't really complain if it succeeds at exactly what it was going for.
There was like maybe a moment where in the scene where he's like going through the mud, like, oh, they're on the island over there, and she like doesn't tell him, and I felt like that was a little pushing it in terms of being over dramatic. That was the one sequence where I was like, okay, you're kind of hamming this up, but I feel like I might feel differently about it on a second watch. I feel like knowing
really
what it is and like the context of what's happening and the reveal and like the character being in denial and all that, on a second watch, I'm probably just going to be completely okay with it.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't give it a rating now. Like, honestly.
Oh,
I thought it was great. It would be something high. Because it's like, I don't know. It just made me, it was beautifully crafted, but it just made me feel awful. And it was a haunting movie about a very bad, painful subject matter. But it's great. It would be something high if I were to rate it.
Okay.
In the future, maybe.
Near the end of the film, they're using... Ralph, do you know what this is called? I forget the terminology for it, where you basically have like a shift in the lens where the foreground and the background are both in focus at the same time.
Oh,
you know
like the split
again?
focus thing?
Split focus?
I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
I forgot exactly what it's called.
Maybe I just haven't noticed it in some earlier films, but I see it a lot more commonly in like 90s and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
I couldn't tell you the
origin.
origin.
Just showed up at the end. It was really effective either way.
Yeah, very briefly. It was the girl and he was in the background. I forgot.
There were a couple shots.
And
they all came kind of like in that end sequence.
Yeah.
And then they showed real Holocaust footage, and that was interesting.
There was the footage of like Hitler, and then they showed the picture of Hitler, like baby Hitler, as he was shooting like that portrait of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the puddle.
What did you guys get out of that?
It was interesting. I thought
that... Because to put that in there too was very like challenging.
Yeah. It was an interesting decision. I was more on board with the shots of like the starving, dying people. After that point, like went back to like the regular movie for a minute, and then it goes back into more black and white footage as he's shooting the Hitler painting. I thought that the editing was a little bizarre in that moment where everything was getting reversed, and it went on for a while, but
yeah, well, you gotta think back to like the Nazi propaganda movies at that time.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like a taking that footage and messing it up, like jumbling it, making it like this nightmare almost. You know, like almost a defamation of it, like
it's like
graffiti
the promise versus
like,
the reality of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then you see the baby, and it's like maybe he thinks he could have gone that same way, maybe. Like he could have become that monster too, and in some ways he has. Because he's a very different like person at the very end of the film than he is at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah, I'll have to see it a second time to really know how I truly feel about
it. Is
about that last part.
It's very hard to watch,
though.
But yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
The acting was fantastic. Like that one shot when the main character, is told that his entire family is dead. And he's like looking into the camera, and you can see these like huge puddles of tears like forming in his eyes. That was a moment where I was like, holy shit. Like that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very emotionally resonant.
Yeah, we're just really dour because it's a rough watch, but what would you guys rate it if we want to move on to ratings?
I'm giving it. I was waiting for you.
I was waiting for you. It wasn't really hard for me to assign a rating. There are certain special movies come along every now and again that when I watch, I'm just like, I have no problem giving this a perfect like 5 stars, which it is to me, and I'm sure it'll only get better on rewatch. It really affected me, and it shocked me, and everything it intended to do. And yeah, I think everyone should go out their way to try and watch it if they can, especially if a nice shiny Criterion's going to come out in the near future.
That'd be great.
I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. It might be a 10 when I see it again. I knew I would love it too. It's one of those things where it's like, just been sitting on my watch list for a while. I'm like, yeah, this looks like probably something I would enjoy, sort of thing. So I'm
glad I finally got around to it. Yeah. I just didn't want to watch it,
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad you finally forced me, Alex. Yeah.
It was the same reason I haven't watched like Salo either. There are loads of movies like that where it's like, I'll watch that another time when I don't want to be miserable for a bit.
And then, Ralph, you're abstaining from a rating.
Sure, for now. Okay. It would be something high, like a 9 or a 10.
All right.
I would just like to see it again.
Sure.
It's a lot to take in. Yeah. I can't watch it and be like, oh, that's an 8 out of 10. I was just like, holy shit. Whatever.
God, yeah. Just thinking about it. But you can't just keep putting it off. At some point you have to face reality, and that's what the film's ultimately about. Mm-hmm. It's like, yep, this happened. Just look at how fucking
people are
it
capable of this.
Yeah.
So it's important that we don't repeat that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, question time?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do some questions. If you want to leave your own questions, head over to the Sardonicast Reddit, where there will be a thread where you can ask us whatever you like. So let's start off with this one from Budum, who asks, and I'm sorry, this leaves you out a little bit, Adam, so I hope you don't mind me talking about it. To Ralph and Alex, what are your final thoughts on Mr. Robot now that it's over? I know you're making a video, Ralph, but top level thoughts while people, wait, or the video might actually be out by the time this goes up.
No, I don't think so. It might be. Definitely part of it, because I'm going to post part of it to patrons, but
okay, awesome.
It was great.
Yeah, I finished
Sam Esville did it again.
Yeah, I finished it yesterday, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything, just as vague as possible. I was really happy with the conclusion of it. I wasn't sure how they were going to do it, and I'd heard that people were really satisfied with it. And I was like, okay, we'll see about that. And the last 2 episodes are really clever, the way they choose to take it.
They were like a modern day Back to the Future almost. Just those 2 episodes. It was so fun and interesting. I had no idea if it. I guess we can't spoil anything. Yeah, but I had no idea what was happening, which is great. That's in a good way. That's a very Mr. Robot.
You're sat there salivating, waiting.
But the story
answers.
really did come together very well. All the characters served their purpose, and Darlene and Elliot had a great arc this season.
Yeah,
and their final moment was great. It's just a lot of good writing, and on a technical level, I think the show was amazing.
Oh,
that one episode
it's so
that was
on a production level
it was just no dialogue that entire episode. It was the 5th one, I believe. It was just an action scene of them hacking into this building and then running away. It was fantastic, and there's so many moments like that.
It felt effortless the way it was put together.
And then episode 7 is a Hitchcock film. It has 5 acts, and it's letterbox, but it's fucking brilliant. It takes place in one room, basically.
Mm-hmm. And the music, I thought, stepped up as well. I really liked the soundtrack in season 4.
Throughout the whole thing. Mac Whale stuff and the use of unoriginal music or licensed music. Yeah. Like that.
But you can't really ask more when, as soon as it ended, I was like, oh, that's the kind of ending where I kind of want to go back to the beginning and watch the whole thing again now. I know everything that happens, because it adds so much. Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah, I can't. We can't talk about anything. But there's stuff I noticed where I was like, oh my god, that totally makes sense now.
It's that thing we keep saying about where these planned out stories are the most, gratifying, and it's just another example of it. It is just a great. It's not even stupidly long either. It's only 4 seasons. It's very digestible. It's on Amazon Prime.
It's like Breaking Bad, like that.
Mm-hmm.
But these shows aren't, very weird. And in a way, it feels more like they're literally reincorporating footage from season 1 into season 4, effortlessly. It totally feels organic and part of the story, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
That level of planning is kind of new. But these shows aren't usually exactly planned out. I bet there's things they made up. From what I know, Vera was made up as a character, for their show. But considering you have all this stuff and these plates you gotta balance, it did a pretty good job of resolving everything in a very satisfying way. unlike Game of Thrones or something like that.
Yeah. I was really glad they nailed it.
Sorry you can't engage with this, Adam, but it's a good show.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. We'll wait for Ralph's video. I'm sure he'll cover everything of note.
Yeah.
Okie dokie then. Let's move on to this one from Motionless Upon the Air. It's a nice one. If it were proven that all the conspiracy theories around Hollywood are true, parentheses, cult gatherings, pedophilia, sex trafficking, etc., and every mainstream filmmaker and actor is involved in some way, would you have a harder time enjoying mainstream American cinema?
Yeah, if it was like some grand conspiracy.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
I don't even think the conspiracy theories are saying that literally every major Hollywood director is in on this shit.
Every single one.
Yeah, I don't know what they... But yeah, how would it affect you?
It's just, they're genuine people working in Hollywood, I think.
Yes, of course there are.
What is, like,
especially
what's conspiracy
It's that
theory?
little doubt in your mind. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
That's how these conspiracy theories flourish, is from that, like, 1% of doubt you have in your mind. And it just spirals from there.
I don't fucking know. I don't know how to answer that question.
It's such a weird, like, hypothetical.
It is a bizarre hypothetical.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
I'm still able to enjoy a good Polanski movie. Whatever.
Sure, Rosemary's Baby's good, but it's different if it's every director.
Yeah, it depends the scale.
Like the entire industry.
Like,
yeah.
If we found out this was a thing, like, it would be such phenomenal news. Like, I don't know how anyone could really recover. Like, the whole art form would even struggle. It would be like a ridiculous
or Hollywood at
thing.
Least. Like the big Hollywood directors, it would be over. Hollywood would die. Maybe that's a good thing. That'll keep them from doing AI movies.
Anything to stop them.
Yeah.
Okay. Deadpool has this to say. Opinions on Golden Globes opening monologue, if you watched. The Golden Globes happened, I guess.
Like, I didn't watch any of that.
I didn't watch any of it, but did you guys not watch any of the Ricky Gervais
I saw that
thing where he just insults
it was posted on Reddit.
Everyone in the audience. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was funny. I wasn't like as taken aback or surprised by it as a lot of people seem to be. He's been trashing the Golden Globes every time he's on. He just gets a little bit more
it seemed like people were reacting more this time for some reason.
I think because he mentioned Epstein or something.
He did.
He joked about them being his
everyone
in the audience being Epstein's like friend or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe if you didn't know who he was and you saw him come up and he made all those jokes, then maybe I could see being shocked. But if you know anything about him and his form of comedy, then it was just his stand-up, but with a... It's like the only thing that made the Golden Globes worth talking about.
Yeah, which is why they invited him back.
Yeah, exactly. Because then
he knows he can get away with it. They keep inviting him back. He keeps pushing it more and more every time.
Yeah.
God bless him.
At this point, he just says he doesn't care. He's like, this will be the last time. I don't care.
Yeah, he
I don't care.
Mocks the running time of it. He like pimps his own shows out and shit during the speeches and stuff. He didn't give a single fuck. It's insulting like so many people to their faces, including like Tim Cook from Apple. It was like hilarious.
Yeah, that would not fly as well at the Oscars. The Golden Globes are more of a joke.
Absolutely not.
It's like a drunken rehearsal for the Oscars. So
yeah,
they don't care. It was fine.
Drunk rehearsal.
Yeah, the Golden Globes are boring.
Yeah, like why like who would care otherwise aside from him hosting it? Like people barely care about the Oscars even. Let alone the Golden Globes or the BAFTAs or any of this shit. It's such a but on the same sort of lines, if we're talking about comedy and that and whatnot, I got a count to ask this. Has this to ask? When you guys discussed your favorite actors, you autistic cunt piece of shit barely mentioned any comedy actors. That's supposed to be like a joke. So with this question, I ask, who are your favorite comedy actors and comedy performances?
Well,
Nicolas Cage Anna Faris is pretty great. I think she's hilarious.
Simon Pegg.
Yeah, Simon Pegg.
Yeah, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I'd say both of them.
Yeah, it depends what you like, because there is a good comedic performance, and then there's a good comedic performance that also has a bit more to it, if you know what I mean. Like, I think Simon Pegg is actually a pretty decent actor at the end of it, so it does elevate like the Cornetto trilogy or something like that. So he is able to do. Yeah, it's all about range, isn't it? Like, if you're able to do a bit more, then it brings more to the performance. Like Robin Williams or someone like that. You know, he's able to do the whole gambit. Or, you know, Jim Carrey even. You know, he can be goofy and ridiculous, but he also can be in Eternal Sunshine or something more thoughtful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I don't know, because then the ones where Jim Carrey is the wackiest are not like the best movies. And then he's like more held back in like Eternal Sunshine, and it's like, oh, okay, this is great. So it really depends on what you want out of a movie, I guess, or a performance.
Yeah.
You know, because Bill Murray is really funny, but he does the same thing every time. So it's like, is that a great performance, or maybe I just like him?
Maybe. I love Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
He's incredible.
Yeah, that is a great answer.
His determination to fuck with people in real life is what makes him stand out. Great. Borat is a great movie.
Yeah.
Even shout out to Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean.
Yeah. He's great.
Like, yeah, he's, as much as I like to shit on Mr. Bean, he's very good as Mr. Bean.
Yeah. It's an iconic role.
Yeah, man.
You can't take that away from him. Charlie Chaplin. I just pulled out like a guy from the 20s. Couldn't think of anything else. Yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen's a good one.
Yeah, that's my answer. Sticking to it.
Shmi Hoopapa has this to ask. Do you think a movie is better if it is a cinematic achievement? For example, giving Toy Story extra credit because it is the first animated feature film.
But computer animated feature film. Did they just write animated?
Sorry, that was just that. Yeah, they wrote animated. They did mean computer animated.
That's part of what engages you in the film, right? Is that it's the first time doing something. Like the Avatar film is the first time it was Pandora. Like you saw Pandora, and this fully CGI world was rendered like realistically, and you were engaged in it. If you tried doing that same thing now, it wouldn't be as impressive.
Yeah. Well, how many times on this show alone have we given films points purely for being the film to start something, start some style or, you know, way of presenting things that just inspired so many people? Like, I think it's really important to like...
It is interesting to watch. To know where, like, how films have informed each other and where things come from.
It's crucial to understanding the context even. Like, if you show a kid the original Toy Story now, they might mock it for how it looked and want to watch Toy Story 4, you know? But, you know, that doesn't make Toy Story 1 a worse movie just because of that one aspect. There's more to it.
Depends on what kind of achievement, really. Because, like, there are some movies where you could list an achievement, but it's still not a great movie, but it has its place in cinema history. Like,
exactly.
The first usage of computer-generated effects in a movie at all was just like, what? It was like a sequence of somebody's hand or something that was just on a computer screen for some other random movie that I don't think I've seen, sort of thing. Like, there's an achievement in there. I don't know.
Or Tron. That's an achievement.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. It really depends on what the achievement is and how it plays into the film. Like, does it help the movie?
Yeah, and how much, like it affected cinema and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't really have like a hard-hitting answer on that. I would just say it depends.
Danny-O Movie Guy asks this. What's a film you love that carries a negative connotation as a generic film bro, in quotes, movie? And does the stigma surrounding that film cause you to enjoy it less? So we're seeing this more and more how, like... You know, just the typical gatekeeping in, fandoms. Like, it's all about putting people into categories and, like, you're not a real one because of this and that. An example for me would be, like, Fight Club, I guess. That's considered, like, a film bro movie.
Yep.
And everyone, like, you know, considers it that way. But then when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is actually really good. It doesn't make me enjoy it less, though. Like, it's never gotten to that point where it makes me, like, purely for its reputation, make me dislike a movie. but that's probably the closest one.
Mine would probably be Kill Bill. Love that movie a million times. I love Kill Bill 3000.
What's Kill Bill 3000?
I was making a reference to Avengers Endgame.
Avengers joke.
Oh.
For no reason. No, yeah, Kill Bill is like one of my favorite movies ever. Yeah, I would say it's probably my favorite Tarantino movie. Either that or Pulp Fiction, but I think Kill Bill's first.
I feel like Tarantino movies have that kind of
in general
reputation. Yeah, which is a shame because they're great movies, except Death Proof.
But,
yeah, man.
I would say Pulp Fiction. I would say something like that. That's what I see on like people make fun of people like Pulp Fiction
for no good reason. I don't know.
It's fine. It's whatever.
Just because a lot of people enjoy something doesn't mean that it's unjustified. It doesn't mean, like, even if some people are a part of a bandwagon, that doesn't discredit the film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I like reminding people to like what they like.
Yeah.
You know, like, so what if some people, you know, hate or like something that you feel the opposite on? Like, if you genuinely feel that way, then what does it matter?
Yeah.
If you like fucking Fight Club or Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Like, tons of people will shit on Christopher Nolan because there's a huge fan army bandwagon behind him, but like, you also have to recognize that there's reasons why he's considered a great director, you know? Like, there's some things he does really well. Like, he might not do a great job every single time, but, like, there's reasons to appreciate him.
Right. I would like to see these people with $150 million and they have to make a Batman movie. Christopher Nolan did it really well.
There are people who shit on others for liking Kubrick. And it's just like, you don't even understand why people love Kubrick so much.
People like complaining that, like, if you like Kubrick, it means you're like up your ass or something. So what the fuck? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, Kubrick's one of the most influential, like, greatest directors ever.
Yeah, it doesn't, the amount of people behind something won't cause me to appreciate it less. It's what it means to me. It doesn't really matter what it means to other people.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
One more?
Let's do this one then. A nice, light-hearted one to end on. When in a show full of such death, horrors, and misery. C. Maya7 asks us this. How do you feel about shows with laugh tracks? The only one that I actually enjoy is that 70s show. Are there any you guys like?
Mr. Robot has a few laugh tracks.
Oh, really?
That
what?
Doesn't count.
Ironically. Yeah. Ironically.
Okay.
No, I hate it. I think it's so dumb. Well, like, laugh track is it an artificial guy there with a button? Like, clicking the button every time to make people laugh? Because, like,
or
Nickelodeon shows
audience.
do that or something. Yeah, the studio audience, I guess, isn't as bad.
Yeah, I kind of hate them equally.
Yeah?
Like, it pulls me out of it so much. The only time I've put up with it was to watch all of Seinfeld, which I thought was worth it.
It is a very dated thing. I feel like it's something out of the 80s and 90s. I feel like its place is kind of gone.
It's like in the same way that people abuse a film's score to try and make you feel emotion where the film itself isn't really doing all that much. Laugh tracks are more or less just, hey, here's where you're supposed to laugh. And there are, you know, it's literally engraved into our human brains where there's this social aspect where other people laughing will make you laugh. It's like it's literally just manipulating you into feeling a certain emotion. Code. And it's so weird because it's not like a part of the show's universe. It's not like these people laughing are characters in the show. But yeah, I would agree that 70s show actually works in that sense because it is, you know, it's kind of pretending to be something dated at the same time. You know, whether or not they're doing it ironically, it actually fits with the tone of the show. But yeah, otherwise I would say I would rather not have a laugh track. And even in Seinfeld, I don't even think it's actually necessary. I think Seinfeld is like a funny enough show that it could exist without a laugh track. And that's perhaps that was realized when Larry David started Curb Your Enthusiasm, which obviously does not have a laugh track. And I find much funnier than Seinfeld, honestly.
Yeah, it frees you up a little because you're not on this set. You're not just like... Because Larry David could go like out in the city and to his car and do all kinds of crazy things. It's very limiting to just perform in this like setting, this one setting. But people like it.
Yeah.
It does well. They think it's safe. studios don't have faith in like comedies anymore unless you have like a laugh track in it. They just don't have faith in it. No, I wouldn't like. I guess they've always been that way, but they just don't have faith in that people will just find something funny, so they have to put stuff like laugh tracks in it.
It's not nearly as common as it used to be. It used to be like unheard of to make a comedy show without a laugh track, like a sitcom, like in the 90s, and then Malcolm in the Middle came out and was like, okay, well, we can actually make something funny without a laugh track. They're like, okay, we don't need it. Okay. So
I remember reading about how the Always Sunny crew had to like really fight to not have a laugh track in the show or something like that. Yeah. I could be wrong on that, but I do remember
that would totally
that.
ruin the show.
It would completely ruin that show. It would. It'd take away all the subtlety.
Yeah, I generally do not like laugh tracks, but
that's the thing though. Does anyone? There must be people then that like it and find it comforting. Like otherwise they wouldn't do it.
I do not think that The Big Bang Theory would be successful without a laugh track.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like the show either way. I don't think many people would like the show at all if there was no laugh track.
Yeah.
It'd just be
you wouldn't
really
even know
awkward.
where jokes are. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about talk
really
shows? Like late night shows?
That's more of like a live audience thing, is almost kind of like an engagement sort of thing. Although the audience can be very annoying.
Yeah, they can be annoying. They have signs. They tell the audience when to laugh and clap and all that. They're manipulating you in that same way. Like, oh, you're watching this guy in his like comfortable environment, but it's not real. Like none of it's real. It's just these people brought in like 2 hours before from outside.
Yeah.
And they're just told to laugh and clap.
But yeah, I guess the ultimate thing is it doesn't enhance the comedy. It's just a cheap way to get laughs, basically. So of course none of us like it.
Just manipulation.
Pretty much.
All right. I think that wraps up the questions.
Yeah, some good ones in there.
Cool.
Excellent.
There's a film recommendation. I guess it's my turn.
Yes, you.
Wasn't really sure what to pick. Haven't had a weird one in a while. I think it would be good to talk about a weird one. So I guess we're gonna go with an animated movie from 1977 by Ralph Bakshi called Wizards. And you probably shouldn't look up too much about it. And I would even say to not really have any expectations one way or another, other than it's weird. And I think everyone should see it at least once. And it's something that I think will be fun to talk about.
Why do I know this movie?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
But he's. I would say after you see the movie, we should do a little research on the director, because he's kind of an interesting character, and I think that would play into the discussion for sure.
Is this like a Blu-ray thing, or is it a...
I have a Blu-ray. I don't know how easily accessible it will be to find it, but we got tons of time because we're recording this episode pretty early, so if you need to track down a copy. But yeah, I own a Blu-ray for this movie.
Yeah, this isn't to be confused with The Wizard with Fred Savage, right?
Yeah. 1977,
just making sure.
Ralph Bakshi.
Some people might...
Wizards.
Yeah, some people...
Animated film. All right.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
That was awesome.
Woo.
Thank you all for listening or watching or both. If you want to support the show, $2 a month, sardonicast.com. Sign up for premium. You'll get these episodes early. Also, patreon.com/sardonicast. Also, we got merch. Link in the description on the YouTubes. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Everybody.
Yeah, it was fun, as always.
Yay. We talked about war.
War bad.
And
War
Parasite remake bad.
AI good? No, bad.
Maybe.
AI bad.
It's all bad.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.